All right. So we are now live on YouTube Live. So welcome everybody. And again, my name is Barnes. I'm from Tumblehome and I'm here to welcome you all. Today we have a very, really awesome Tumbleocity. This is our, I don't know, our second year of doing this. So and this is our first Tumbleocity, I believe, that we're celebrating for this year. So welcome to the new year, Tumbleocity. And we are here to talk about Tammy Yee's new book. Now, Tammy, for some of you who are diehard Tumblehome fans, you may know, has been an artist on some other books of ours. She's done something for our one of our books in particular that's really done very well, Escape Greenland. Uh, and this is a book by Dr. Prager. So we're very excited to have Tammy back as her own artist for her own book, as well as the author of her book. And the book today that we're going to be talking about is The Angel of Santo Tomas, the story of Fe del Mundo. So I'll let Tammy tell you about her background, but she's obviously a wonderful and talented artist, and the story is great. And Tammy has her own background in medicine, and I'll let her share more about her story. Thanks, Tammy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tammy, and I'm an author and an illustrator. And I was once a pediatric nurse. I took care of med-surg and oncology patients. And so children's writing and pediatric nursing, they're kind of similar in that you're really kind of dealing with healing children and helping children and everything. And that's why I love creating books for children. I first learned about Fe del Mundo when we were in Boston and my husband was going to Harvard, and he told me about this woman, this incredible woman who went to Harvard way back in the 1930s. And the more I learned about her, the more fascinated I became. So thank you for the introduction, Barnes, and I'm going to just dive right into it. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let's do this. Here we go. Okay, so let's get started. I want to share with you today the story about Fe del Mundo. She's just this remarkable, courageous, and dedicated woman. And her entire career seemed to have been guided by a promise that she had made long ago. And I think as we learn about Fe del Mundo, we have to first ask ourselves, who was Fe del Mundo? I think I'm having some problems with my slideshow because it's not quite reacting the way it was prior. Oh, here we go. So who was Fe del Mundo? We're going to start a poll. Was she a doctor, B, an inventor, C, a teacher, D, a scientist, or E, all of the above? And then we can begin our poll. We're getting a lot of good responses. That's fantastic. I think most of us answered that she's all of the above, and about 9% answered that she was a doctor. And Fe del Mundo was all of the above. She was a pediatrician, which is a doctor that cares for children. And Faye often joked that because she was less than 100 pounds and only 5 feet tall, her professors often joked that she should be a pediatrician because those were the only patients that would be smaller than her. But really, she chose pediatrics because she saw that there was a great need for doctors who could care for children. She was also the inventor of the incubator. Not that incubator, this incubator. Out in the rural areas of the Philippines, there was no electricity. And with babies that were born too early, they often needed help keeping warm, and sometimes they needed oxygen to breathe. So what Faye did was she got two bamboo laundry baskets and she nestled them one inside the other. And between the laundry baskets, she lined it with hot water bottles. That would keep the baby warm. And then she put a tent over the bassinet, and then she could feed an oxygen tube into the tent to oxygenate the baby. And it could be done in the countryside with no need for electricity. So she worked with whatever was available. She was also a teacher. She taught students, doctors, nursing students, and she also wrote the textbook of pediatrics and child health and was the editor-in-chief. And she was a scientist. She was the first woman to be declared a national scientist in the Philippines. But above all, she was a humanitarian. She was always someone who cared for the welfare of others in need, and she was recognized for it. In 1966, she received the Elizabeth Blackwell Award, recognizing women whose life exemplifies outstanding service to humanity. In 1977, she received the Ramon Magsaysay Award for her lifelong dedication as a physician extraordinary to needy Filipino children. In 1977, she received the Most Outstanding Pediatrician and Humanitarian Award. And in 2008, she received the Blessed Teresa Calcutta Award. So she was well recognized for humanitarian efforts. But to tell the story about Fe del Mundo, we have to travel back in time 100 years, across the Atlantic Ocean, across the Americas, across the Pacific Ocean, and zoom in to a strand of 7,000 islands called the Philippine Islands. And this is where her story began in 1911. So let's look at 1911. Here we go again. And we're going to have another poll. The world in 1911, only one of these is true. A, Roald Amundsen reached the North Pole. B, Charles Smith was the first to fly across the Pacific. C, Marie Curie won the Nobel Prize. Or D, Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin. And I'll give you some time to answer the poll.
Penicillin discovered. I have no idea.
So only one is correct. And I think we have enough time. Let's see, 50% said that Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin. 27% said Marie Curie won the Nobel Prize. 18% said that Charles Smith flew across the Pacific Ocean.
Are muted. Hello? Hi.
And the answer is Marie Curie won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1911 for her discovery of polonium and radium. Roald Amundsen in 1911 did reach one of the poles, but it was a South Pole, not the North Pole. Charles Smith did fly across the Pacific, but that wasn't until 1928. And Alexander's discovery of penicillin was also in 1928. So let's zoom in on Faye's world. The year is 1911, and she's on the main island of Luzon in the capital city of Manila, in an area called Intramuros. Intramuros is an old Spanish city, about 450 years old, and the walls are 20 feet high. And this Spanish walled city still stands today. And this is where Fe's story began. She was born across the street from the Manila Cathedral. So this is basically what Fe's world was like. This is the Manila Cathedral. And remember, back then, this was prior to the invention of antibiotics, or the discovery of antibiotics. So this had a great impact on Fe's life. Children back then, they often succumbed to illness before the age of 1. And Faye was the sixth of 8 children, and only 4 of her siblings and herself would survive into adulthood. And so this is where our story begins. The procession wound through the narrow streets of Intramuros, Manila. Faye followed behind the funeral carriage, grateful for father's hand upon her shoulder. Mother's veil hid her heavy eyes. Street dust turned their black shoes gray. Back home, Faye lit a candle and opened her sister's notebook. Between the pages, her sister shared her dream of becoming a doctor. Faye could not let her sister's dream die. She vowed to take her place. So this is a promise to take her sister's place, to become a doctor and serve those in need, that guided Faye for the rest of her life. At age 15, she entered the University of the Philippines, and she studied hard. She worked beside her uncle in his pathology lab. So as we look at this animation, can you tell me what kind of laboratory equipment you can see? You can just enter it in a chat box. In 1933, she graduated from medical school at the top of her class. She was now Dr. Fe del Mundo. But Faye wanted more. She wanted to learn more about the latest in medical science and bring that knowledge back to the Philippines. So in 1936, she received a scholarship from President Quezon to study at the most prestigious American universities and hospitals. So you can answer in the chat box. Take a guess. How far is it from the Philippines to Boston? How did she travel across the Pacific Ocean? And how long was her journey? Any guesses?
No guesses so far. We did get some responses on a lot of people saw the cool microscope and the
Oh,
beakers
yes.
and test tubes. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, people saw the beaker too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So someone said 4,000, maybe 4,000 miles traveled by ship, or 8,000 miles by boat, 2 months, 1,000 miles.
Okay. It took 2 months by steamship to travel 8,400 miles with a stopover in Hawaii.
Wow.
As a postgraduate student, Fe del Mundo took courses at Harvard Medical School, and she also trained at Boston Children's Hospital and many other respected institutions. She was in Boston for about 5 years when 1941 rolled along. And can anyone tell me what happened in 1941 to change Fe's world?
Pearl Harbor.
Yes, yes. World War II began in the Pacific. Faye was already in Boston. She had been studying there for quite a while. And now she faced a choice. Should she remain in Boston, where she was safe, or should she return to the Philippines and the University of Santo Tomas, where American and British families were being forced into internment camps? So to learn more about Faye and the choices that she had to make and the promises that she kept, you can read more about her in my book, The Angel of Santo Tomas. And I want you to always keep Faye's words with you. If you give the world your best, the best that you can, excuse me, if you give the world the best that you can, the best will always come back to you. So what I'd like to do is open up for some discussion and some questions, because after this, I do have some demonstrations on how I created the art. Any questions? Okay, let's go right into the art then.
Well, it looks like someone just asked, did you write the book?
Yes, I did write the book. It took me about a year to do all of the research, and I used as my sources the biography from the Ramon Magsaysay Award Foundation, and that's kind of like Asia's equivalent of the Nobel Prize. And I had a lot of research that I had to do, you know, a lot of the photographs and everything, and I also used some contemporary articles from that time. But it was challenging writing the book because Faye accomplished so much during her lifetime. I had to find like a thread, a narrative thread, to make it interesting and to find out, well, what drove this woman to do everything that she did? And that thread to me was that promise that she made to her sister. I mean, this is a woman who eventually even she established the first pediatric hospital in the Philippines, and she sold her home to build the hospital. And she lived on the second floor and took care of patients well into her 90s. So she was a remarkable woman. I see a question that said, why did Americans and Brits have to go to camps? What had happened was the Japanese invaded or attacked actually the Philippines within 8 hours after Pearl Harbor. And so as they moved towards Manila, they declared Manila a neutral zone, and they forced the American and British families into internment camps because they were kind of declared enemies. And there are a lot of photos of the children there, and you know, they made like makeshift tents and everything.
Tammy, it looks like there was another question as well. Someone asked, how difficult is it to be both the author and the illustrator?
You know, I kind of like being both, because sometimes as an illustrator, you know, I have to interpret what the author writes, and I have to kind of like envision it and map it out, kind of like a movie, and pace it. But if I'm the author and the illustrator, I can work back and forth and change some of the wording in the book to, you know, adjust for the pacing, and I can also change the illustrations. And also, as the author and illustrator, we never get into an argument over the artwork.
Mhm.
Okay, so shall I go ahead and show you my demonstration? Let's do that.
Well, you know, there was actually one more question at the end there. Someone asked, was there something you had to leave out of this book that you really wanted to include?
You know, there were quite a few things. I mean, I tried to make the book not so much about the particulars of the war. And that was because I wanted to be sensitive to children, and also because I wanted the main message to be one of hope and one to inspire kids, and and to have them also have a message of that despite, adversity, all of the things she overcame, she still had so much to accomplish. So I tried to focus more on her and her motivation than I did about some of the atrocities about the war. And as I did my research, I did really learn a lot. And there is quite a bit, there's a lot of documentation about those internment camps also.
And it looks like we have one more question. What was the most rewarding part of this journey, writing and illustrating this book?
I think I felt so honored. I also felt a little intimidated because she's held in such high regard in the Philippines. And of course, my husband's Filipino, and we have so many Filipino friends and colleagues and everything like that. And it was such a challenge to portray this woman. And that in itself was also very rewarding because then I just really felt that her story had to be told. And I felt that, children, of color during these especially difficult times, where other kids are held in detainment camps. And, I just thought that this was the right time for this message to come out. Okay, so shall we do the demonstration?
Sure,
Okay,
that'd
let's
be
see
great.
if I can get into my sharing. Because I'm both the author and the illustrator, I'd like to give you a short demonstration on how I created the art for the Angel of Santo Tomas. When I create children's books, I like to use an iPad Pro. It really helps with my digital illustrations, and I like to use this neat program called Procreate. In Procreate, I can select different types of brushes or pencils to make my digital illustrations look like they're hand-drawn. So I'm going to select a nice pencil, and I always like to start my drawings with a rough sketch, basically a stick figure, just to show me what kind of action I want my character to be doing. And I think I'm going to have Faye holding something. And as I draw my stick figure, I try to keep in mind the proportions. With children, they have bigger heads and smaller hands. I'm going to kind of give her a dress, and I'm going to have her holding something. Not quite sure yet. And then let's just work on her face, her eyes and her nose and her eyebrows, and give her a little smile. And I think I like that. I think that works well for me. So now that I have my rough sketch, what I'm going to do is kind of lighten that sketch so that I can use it as a guide. And then I can draw right over it, darkening the lines, kind of fine-tuning the sketch. Create her hairline and her ears. And Faye's got that nice kind of heart-shaped face and those lovely eyes, of course, and that wonderful black hair. And I think I'm going to give her a big smile. Work on her little hands. Let's give her some sleeves to her dress. There you go. I think I'm going to have her holding some flowers, because why not? Can't forget her shoes. Now this is where I can erase that rough sketch that I had, and then I can keep on working on using my eraser and kind of refining the drawing until I get it just where I want it and I'm ready to add in some color. And it looks like we're all set to go. Because I want her to look like she's kind of like hand-drawn or hand-painted, I'm going to import a color texture that kind of looks like canvas. I kind of like that hand-drawn look. And I'm going to trace her, because what I want to do is cut out all of the background so that she's separate from the background. That way, when I change her colors, I don't change the background. There you go. And then I'm going to start on her skin tone. So I'm going to go carefully around her face, around her hair, tracing everything. This is where it gets really tricky sometimes, because sometimes I'll forget to trace a part, and I'll forget to adjust the tone on one part of her skin. Let's see. I think I like that. Now I'm going to use some pastel and just color in the spots that I missed. Get the one on her leg. Great. Next, we're going to work on her hair. And I'm just going to pour in some black paint and fill in her hair. Let's find the right black. There you go. I'm going to use a pen to touch up her black hair, all the spots that I missed. Get her eyes. And I'll give her some black shoes too. And let's give her a bright smile and add some reflections to her eyes. Now let's work on her dress. I haven't decided what color to make her dress. Let's see. Maybe pink. Oh, I like that. Something more rosy. And finally, let's make her flowers. Nice daisies with white petals, green stems. Add some yellow to the center. And then let's just add some accents to the ribbon on her dress. And finally, let's just give some color to her lips. Not too much, but just to give her some color. There, I think I like that. It really does add. Yeah, and I think she's ready. One of the nice things about Procreate is it's got this really great feature where you can go in and you can actually play a time-lapse video of your process illustrating. So let's try and make a video. And there you go. This is what we did today. So what I'm going to do is run through one of the actual illustrations from the book. So you can see in this time-lapse video that I start with a very, very faint sketch. And then I can start by cropping out the textured background and adjusting the color. And I use the pastels to add in fine details and shading and kind of make it more three-dimensional. And now that I have my characters all ready, I'm ready to work on the background. So I want to work on the sketches that are in her sister's notebook where she says that she wants to become a doctor. And now I can cut out that sketch and import it right onto the illustration of the book. Light the candle, and I'm ready to finish the background. I can add some grass in the background, add some flowers for detail, and that is a complete sketch or illustration. Of course, it's not that quick. Okay. And that's it. That's how I do my illustrations. And I'll probably have more time-lapse video illustrations of some of the artwork that I'll post on my website. And so if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
And we've also posted a trailer of Tammy with her book where she discusses in I believe it's around 2 minutes, 2 minutes worth of Tammy quickly going through what the book means to her, along with a few samples of her art and how she does it.
Fantastic. I just want to thank you all for being here and thanking Tumble Home. It's been wonderful kind of meeting you all, and I hope you enjoyed the book.
Thank you very much, Tammy, for being here. This was really, really wonderful. I think everybody here, I see a few comments. A lot of people said some really, really nice things about your art and the book. So it sounds like everybody's a fan. So thank you all for being here today. And I don't know if everybody's unmuted, but a big round of applause for Tammy. This was really, really amazing.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.
And somebody asked, how can we see it on YouTube? Well, our YouTube channel is, our Tumble Home YouTube channel is the best way to see any of this, including in case you want to forward this YouTube live to anybody else. So I will make sure to put the link to that right now into the chat. So for those of you who want to check out Tammy's trailer and forward this YouTube live video to anybody else, feel free to. The link is up there right now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for being here today. And I should probably also mention that there is a coupon code for Tammy's book that is set to expire sometime soon. It's AS25. I'm putting that also in the chat. So for those of you who haven't already got the book or plan to buy the book now on our website, there is a discount discount coupon code that you can apply, and free shipping too. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.